welcome to our daily YouTube session. The topic that we will be dealing with today is 50 years legacy of Kesavananda Bharati case. Okay, we know it is important for your polity, GS paper 2 and specifically with respect to mains paper. The things that were important with respect to Kesavananda Bharati, first of all we know that it gave the idea of basic structure doctrine, then how judicial review came to be of so much significance with respect to our judicial system, and significance of this doctrine, and further the concerns that are associated with this basic structure doctrine. So, the question can be asked with respect to any of the things with respect to the what is basic structure doctrine, how is its significance to the Indian democracy, then what are its concerns, okay, everything we will be discussing in detail. So, let us start the topic, just wait. The first of all we will see what is Kesavananda Bharati case. See, in Kesavananda Bharati case, this happened in 1973, where issue related to property were challenged in the court, and the Supreme Court in its ruling basically stated that the judgment that it had given in Golaknath case, it is overruled. Basically, in Golaknath case, the Supreme Court stated that Parliament cannot take away any of the fundamental rights. It overruled its judgment. In fact, it upheld the validity of the 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, and that was that Parliament is empowered to abridge or take away any of the fundamental rights, but it added a condition with respect to the what we say amendability of the fundamental right, that no doubt that you can amend whatever fundamental right or part of the constitution you want to amend, but it stated a new or laid down a new doctrine that is called as as we have already discussed, that is basic structure doctrine, where it stated that constituent of power of Parliament under Article 368 does not enable it to alter the basic structure of the constitution. That you have the power to basically amend any part of the constitution, but that amendability should not alter the basic structure. Whatever is defined in the basic structure by the court, that things cannot be amended by the Parliament. So, from here only we can see that it brings to forefront the concept of limited powers of the Parliament, that Parliament by itself cannot do any amendability as it likes basically to the constitution, but it will have to respect the basic structure doctrine. The things that are enlisted in this doctrine by the court cannot be diluted by the Parliament. Again, this means that Parliament cannot abridge or take away a fundamental right that forms a part of the basic structure of the constitution. I hope it is clear what is Kesavananda Bharati case. Kesavananda Bharati case, again I am repeating, it happened in 1973, where some issues with respect to property were challenged in the court, and the court in its judgments overruled first of all the Golaknath judgment, which stated that Parliament cannot abridge or take away any of the fundamental right. In fact, it upheld the validity of 24th Amendment Act and stated that Parliament has the power to abridge or take away the fundamental rights, but it laid a new condition with respect to that, and that is a basic structure doctrine. It stated that Parliament under Article 368 cannot alter the basic structure of the constitution. It does not have the power to abridge or take away any fundamental right that forms the part of the basic structure doctrine. So, moving forward, what is this basic structure doctrine? The basic structure doctrine was introduced in the Kesavananda Bharati case. The doctrine as I have already told you, it limits the parliament's power and state that it could amend any part of the constitution as long as it did not alter or amend the basic structure or essential features of the doctrine of the constitution. But there is a catch here: this basic structure, or as we have seen, essential features, okay, they are not defined in the constitution, as the basically judgment has been invented by the court. So the essential features of the essential or the basic structure is also determined by the court, from time to time. Court itself also has not defined what is basic structure. Over the period of time, through its various judgments, it has listed some new features from the constitution and stated that they constitute the basic structure, and parliament cannot dilute these features through its amendability power. So the court did not define the term basic structure, and over the years the principle has evolved with various things coming under this doctrine. So what basically constitutes the basic structure? What are the elements that are there in the basic structure? For example, the constitution, the supremacy of the constitution, the court has stated, rule of law, independence of judiciary. From here you can obviously you can make an observation that NJAC bill that was declared unconstitutional by the court. Why it was declared unconstitutional? Because it stated that it affected or diluted the independence of the judiciary. Then doctrine of separation of powers, sovereign democratic republic, then parliamentary system of government, principle of free and fair elections, and etc., with inclusion of many other things. The list is basically increasing as the court hears the cases and tries to basically evolve a more holistic definition of what constitutes the basic structure of the doctrine. So now we know that basic structure doctrine, there is no particular definition. It is still evolving as the court hears new cases, and whatever it deems basically essential, it adds to this category of what constitutes the basic structure. Moving forward, application from over the period of time. See, it is not that Supreme Court has only given this doctrine, but has also applied it in the various cases. We will also see the important cases where this doctrine has been applied by the Supreme Court of India. In the last 5 decades, Supreme Court has tested various constitutional amendment acts against the doctrine of basic structure, and in at least 16 cases it has applied this doctrine. But the famous one where the doctrine was applied was basically when the Supreme Court of India struck down a constitutional amendment, full constitutional amendment act was declared unconstitutional, null and void. It was the Constitution 99th Amendment Act 2014. It was struck down by a 5-judge constitution bench in 2015 on the grounds that it threatened judicial independence. As we have already seen, it was a basic structure, it constitutes a basic structure of the constitution, and government cannot do anything which threatens or which dilutes the judicial independence. Okay, so that is how the doctrine was applied. We will see another case also in Kehoto Holohan case, which dealt with the 10th schedule. Supreme Court basically upheld the 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act, but its various provisions were cut down, or we also know it as a anti-defection law. The only portion of the amendment that was struck down was where it was stated that the decisions of the speaker relating to disqualification cannot be judicially reviewed, and this part was basically where it stated that the decisions cannot be judicially reviewed. It was struck down, and in this case it was held that judicial review is a very basic necessity. Okay, on the basis of this case, Kyoto Holohan case, its significance in the Indian political system, the question has been also asked in the previous years by the UPSC in GS paper 2 in the section of polity in the mains examination. Okay, that is the significance of this case because it upheld the mechanism of judicial review. Further, we have seen that where this basically the court has applied this doctrine, we have learned that what was the Kesavananda Bharati case. We have learned basically that doctrine of basic structure was given from this case. Then we learned that what is doctrine of basic structure. Then we saw that how it has been applied in various instances. But what is the significance of this doctrine? Why is it of so much importance? See, first of all, it limits political powers. Basic structure doctrine, as we have already seen, it limits the amendability powers of the parliament. The basic features cannot be amended by the parliament and thus protects the integrity of the constitution. We already know that it concepts basically limited parliamentary powers. Okay, it states that there is supremacy of constitution and not of parliament. See, next point, upholding fundamental rights. The basic structure doctrine helps to secure citizens fundamental rights such as right to life, right to liberty and equality by preventing parliament from amending these rights in a manner that would threaten the constitution's basic structure. The rights, as we have already seen, the fundamental rights which come in the category of basic structure, they cannot be diluted by the parliament or by the legislature. So what are its two most important significances is, first of all, it creates a mechanism of check and balance as well as tries to ensure the accountability of the legislature or the parliament by limiting its powers. Then by upholding the fundamental rights, that the state cannot become authoritarian in any sense, and if it will try to violate the fundamental rights of the citizens, then the judiciary will intervene and the thing will be declared as null and void. Further moving forward, then is ensuring judicial independence. As we know that there is a concept of separation of powers. For the essential feature of the constitution is judicial independence, so that each mechanism or each area can maintain a proper department, can maintain a proper check and balance over the others. For example, legislature and executive, it is essential that there should be judicial independence. So the doctrine plays a crucial role in preserving the independence of the judiciary, as it prevents any amendments that compromise the separation of powers between legislature, executive and judiciary. We have already done the example of NJAC Act, basically where the Supreme Court stated that judicial independence is being threatened. That is why this act has been declared null and void or unconstitutional. Then preventing authoritarianism by limiting the powers of the parliament. The basic structure doctrine acts as a safeguard against the rise of authoritarianism, ensuring that the government remains accountable to the people. So what are we basically seeing the significance here? First of all, judicial independence, so that the concept of separation of powers can be fully maintained and the judiciary can function without the undue influence of legislature or executive. And preventing authoritarianism, that if a government has a brute majority, okay, then the government should not be able to amend the constitution as per its will. The will or the rights of citizens are of utmost important and supreme. That is how it basically prevents authoritarianism. But some experts have also highlighted the concerns with respect to how basic structure doctrine was invented and how it has evolved over the period of time. See, why it is being criticized, first of all, is the issue of judicial overreach. See, what is the issue here? Issue of judicial overreach. Just give me a second. See, some experts argue that the basic structure doctrine allows the judiciary to exercise excessive control over the legislative process. Take the example of NJAC Act. Despite enactment by the legislature and basically given also notification by the executive, the judiciary basically declared it as unconstitutional because it threatened judicial independence. So sometimes it states that by the mechanism of basic structure doctrine, the judiciary exerts undue pressure, okay, over the legislature, because when the legislating process is going on, the parliamentarians or the legislatures have to keep in mind the basic structure doctrine and how the court will react or respond to the amendments or the basically the bills or the acts that have been passed by the legislature. Then ambiguity. See, the doctrine lacks a clear definition. We have already stated that the court has not defined it. It is evolving over the period of time, which can lead to differing interpretation and confusion. Then dilution of powers. How the basic structure doctrine has been criticized for diluting the concept of separation of powers, because the judiciary is interfering in the work of executive and particularly legislature, and undermines the sovereignty of the parliament. That is how it is basically diluting the power, making judiciary more powerful in comparison to legislature and the executive. Then subjectivity. It is seen that the basic structure doctrine gets defined differently by different judges on their subjective satisfaction. What is subjective? That is based on your personal opinion. As we have no defined we have no defined definition. We have basically the structure is still evolving. So different judges basically try to interpret the doctrine differently over the period of time. There is no objectivity in this process. So what are the concerns here? Judicial overreach, the ambiguity, dilution of powers, and the subjectivity with respect to the doctrine. Then last, what should be the way forward? The way forward is basically very simple. What you will write with respect to this is that, see, the basic structure doctrine has been essential in preserving democracy and protecting fundamental rights of the citizens. We have already seen that it ensures that the constitution's essence is not compromised even as it evolves over the period of time. It helps in preserving democracy, prevents authoritarianism, promotes the rights of the citizen, and it tries to protect the essence or the essential features of the constitution even as it evolves over the period of time. So this is what was our topic with respect to today. Thank you very much.